A fateful confrontation erupts, shaking every traditional notion of power and justice. Kash Patel, the proud and ambitious FBI director, appears on international television with an imposing demeanor, using sharp rhetoric to assert strength and issue threatening words. But on a distant continent, IBRAHIM Traoré, young president of a spirited nation, is unafraid. He is not a target easily subdued by political manipulation. When Patel believes he is delivering a decisive blow, he is unaware that he has stepped into a trap meticulously set with intellect and resolve. Family secrets thought to be buried forever will resurface, exposing every falsehood and leading Patel to the peak of mental collapse, live on air. This is not merely a debate, it is a judgment of justice being executed. A moment that shocks the world, where truth and courage triumph over power and manipulation. Before diving into the story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the latest stories. Blazing sunlight pours down on Washington, D.C., illuminating the FBI headquarters on a tense May morning. Inside its fortified walls, the air is thick with urgency and strain. At the center of this storm is Kash Patel, FBI director, a man in his 40s with a polished exterior but burning with fervent ambition. Patel's meteoric rise, backed by the president himself, has made him a symbol of uncompromising power. With absolute loyalty and a fiery temperament, he believes he can manipulate anything. Patel is preparing for a live CNN interview, seeing it as a golden opportunity to launch a global attack, solidifying his image as a strong, unyielding leader. He is utterly confident, not suspecting for a moment that he holds all the cards. Marcus Thorne, CNN's veteran host, introduces Patel with his usual professional demeanor. The studio lights blaze directly onto Patel's face, highlighting every sharp feature, every calculated expression. As the interview begins, Patel immediately dominates the stage. His tone is incisive, authoritative, relentlessly emphasizing that the FBI under his leadership will not just react, but anticipate and see beyond borders. He boldly declares, "We will no longer be a defensive agency. We will be an offensive force, especially in regions where anti-American sentiment is boiling uncontrollably." Tension in CNN's control room visibly spikes. Technicians and producers begin to murmur. Though accustomed to strong rhetoric from Washington, a sitting FBI director openly targeting sovereign nations is a bold, even reckless move. Patel seems intent on pushing boundaries. He glances directly into the camera, his eyes gleaming with defiance as he names Burkina Faso and President IBRAHIM Traoré. Some leaders in those regions, Patel says, his voice dripping with contempt, especially President Traore, seem to believe they can challenge American interests without consequences. I'm here to say, that ends now. This administration does not shy away from confrontation. We will ensure that actions against our interests come at a cost. Patel's words are like a poison-tipped arrow aimed straight at Ouagadougou. In his office, IBRAHIM Traoré stands motionless, his eyes fixed on the screen. His face remains eerily calm, a deadly composure. But beneath his military uniform, his hands slowly clench into fists, revealing white knuckles, the only sign of the storm brewing within. "He mentioned your name, Mr. President," Colonel Karim Benali whispers, his voice tinged with concern. IBRAHIM doesn't break his gaze from the screen. "I heard," he replies, his voice low but chillingly sharp. He steps closer to the screen, as if trying to peer into Patel's soul through the lens. "This is no longer politics, Karim. This is personal. He's made it personal." In that moment, a bold decision forms in Traoré's mind, a plan that transcends conventional diplomacy, defying all anticipated scripts. He turns to Benali, his eyes resolute. "Prepare the cameras, Colonel. We go live now." Benali is stunned, nearly stammering. Now, Mr. President, they'll never expect this. Ibrahim nods, a rare, subtle smirk, crossing his façonnet, the arrogance of Patel, but a confident, cunning smile. That's the point, Karim. Sometimes the strongest response is the one no one sees coming. When our adversaries expect a diplomatic protest letter, we'll show them raw truth. Preparations in the Burkina Faso president's media room are frantic. Cameras are quickly activated, microphones adjusted, and a secure connection established with CNN's global network. Though everyone in the room is bustling with anxiety, Ibrahim Traoré stands calm, almost unnaturally so. He adjusts his military uniform, fastens a button, his posture sharp as a freshly honed blade. His eyes are steadfast, as if he has long foreseen the course of this confrontation. At CNN's New York studio, a technician suddenly shouts, "Mr. Thorne, we have a secure presidential connection from West Africa." Marcus Thorne, preparing his next question, is taken aback. "President? Which president?" "It's him, President Ibrahim Traoré," the technician confirms, voice brimming with astonishment. "He wants to respond live." On screen, Patel is smiling triumphantly, but upon hearing the news his smile freezes. For the first time, his expression cracks, a fleeting frown betraying his unease. "Right now," he repeats, struggling to maintain composure. Then, with considerable effort, he regains his smug demeanor. "Of course. Let's hear what he has to say. I always welcome frank dialogue." And so, CNN's screen splits in two. On one side is Kash Patel in the sleek studio, the bright lights now seeming to expose his growing anxiety. On the other is Ibrahim Traoré in his modest presidential office, the vibrant Burkina Faso flag behind him, his gaze calm and resolute. Millions of viewers worldwide are glued to the split screen, awaiting Ibrahim Traoré's words. His voice finally rings out, unhurried but carrying an indescribable power. "Director Patel," he begins deliberately, each word measured. "Thank you for the uninvited reminder. It's always enlightening to hear how some Americans still view Africa in the 21st century. Kash Patel forces a smile, a strained, awkward grin. "President Traoré," he says, his tone shifting clumsily to diplomacy. "We always welcome respectful dialogue." He tries to regain control, though clearly caught off guard. But Traoré gives him no such chance. His gaze cuts through the screen like a knife. "Respect, Director Patel, begins with not treating sovereign nations as pawns. It begins with not dismissing a people's right to self-determination based on their skin color or geography." His voice deepens, growing more resolute. "And it certainly doesn't begin with slandering an entire continent as if it's a wilderness that needs to be controlled." The studio air freezes. Marcus Thorne, the seasoned host, is silent, stunned. This is no ordinary debate, it's a direct confrontation. Patel fidgets in his chair, his smile gone, replaced by clear irritation. He senses something is wrong, an invisible threat looming. Ibrahim Traoré leans toward the camera, his gaze unwavering. "Since you chose to address me directly on international television," he says, each word carefully weighed, "I wish to return the courtesy with equal transparency. Let's have a very frank conversation, Director." His hand subtly reaches to the side, resting on a dark red dossier handed to him earlier by Colonel Karim Ben Ali. The dossier seems to hold a deadly secret, ready to be unveiled. Patel watches the gesture with unease. He tries to steady himself, but a cold dread begins to creep in. Traoré slowly opens the dossier, his movements deliberate, almost ceremonial. "Director Patel," he begins, his voice resonating globally, "you've built your public image as a man of law, order, and national purity, a staunch defender of borders and hard truths. A man resolute against deceit and illegal immigration." Patel nods slightly, attempting to reclaim confidence, but his eyes remain fixed on the red dossier. "You believe in the law, do you?" Traoré continues, his voice like glass on stone, cold and sharp. because what I hold here tells a very different story, a story of deceit at its very foundation. Patel blinks. Traore places a document on the table, turning it for the audience to see clearly. It's a copy of an old immigration record. Let's start with family, Director Patel, Traore says. Your father, Mahesh Patel, entered the United States on a student visa in 1978. A humble beginning, correct? Patel nods faintly, a small smile attempting to form. A classic immigration story, a man seeking opportunity. Indeed, Traore replies, but with a rather unconventional twist. Mahesh Patel's visa expired in 1981, yet he remained in the country illegally for nearly 3 years. And then he married. Patel's smile freezes. He married my mother, a love story. An arranged love story, Traore interrupts without hesitation. An arrangement through a third party. He married an American woman he had never met before. A marriage orchestrated just long enough to secure permanent residency, then dissolved. Convenient, isn't it? Patel's face pales. That's a personal matter, he stammers. That's my family's business. I don't know where you got this information. Oh, I know where you got this information, Director, Traore says, his voice calm but carrying a clear threat. He gently places another document on the table, a bank statement with highlighted transactions. And here's another detail in that arranged love story. Your mother, Rita Patel, also known as Rita Johnson, was paid $15,000 to enter that marriage. We have the bank transfer records. Would you like me to display them now, Director Patel? Patel instinctively raises a hand, as if to block the studio lights glaring down on him. He mutters, his voice faltering, That's over 40 years ago. It's in the past. Traore shakes his head slightly. Over 40 years ago, he agrees. But it speaks to the present. You condemn others for the path your family took. You've built your career denouncing those who cross borders, who exploit the system, who aren't honest with the country. You speak of integrity, of truth. Yet your very foundation, your roots are built on a lie, on a monetary transaction, on a sham marriage. You are a product of the very things you claim to oppose. Patel is tense. He stares at Traore, his eyes filled with anger and helplessness. I don't know where you got that dossier, but it's personal. It's out of bounds. You have no right to dig into my family's past. Traore nods gently but doesn't back down. It's personal, Director Patel, because you made it personal when you targeted my country on live television. When you questioned our right to stand equal on the global stage. When you slandered the dignity of an entire continent. You declared war on our truth. And I, the President of Burkina Faso, will respond with your truth. He gently closes the dossier, placing it back on the table. And if this truth unsettles you, Director, Traore says, his voice calm but laced with menace, perhaps you're not ready for the rest. The silence in the CNN studio is suffocating. Millions of viewers worldwide are glued to their screens, captivated by this unthinkable confrontation. They've witnessed the first cracks in Kash Patel's perfect facade, and they know something far greater is about to unfold. There's no turning back. The uneven public battle, yet tilted heavily toward truth, has officially begun. The dark red dossier remains on the small table in President IBRAHIM Traoré's office, like a loaded gun waiting to be fired. For Kash Patel, it's now nothing less than an indictment being read aloud, each page a dagger piercing the glossy facade he's painstakingly built. The smugness on Patel's face is gone, replaced by sheer tension. He fidgets in his chair, his eyes darting frantically, searching for a glimmer of hope, a loophole to escape this desperate situation. The CNN studio lights, once his tool to shine, now feel harsh, exposing every micro-movement, every crack in his feigned composure. IBRAHIM Traoré pauses briefly, letting the tension envelop the space. He's in no rush, nor does he need to be. Time and the truth are on his side. Then he slowly opens the dossier again, his movements deliberate, intentional, making Patel hold his breath. Director Patel, Traore says, his voice low, resonating like a warning bell. The first part was about your roots. Now, let's talk about your legacy. He places a new document on the table, an old report from the late 1980s. We'll talk about a man who played a significant role in shaping your life, a man you called Uncle Rajesh Patel. At the mention of Rajesh Patel's name, a shiver runs down Kash Patel's spine. This is a name he's tried to bury in the deepest recesses of his memory, a part of his past he hoped would never resurface. Rajesh Patel was Mahesh Patel's brother, the uncle Kash was taught to revere. Rajesh Patel, Ibrahim continues, his eyes locked on the camera, as if peering directly into Kash Patel's soul. He worked for a British-owned mining company in Kenya in the late 1980s and early 1990s. A company notorious for ruthlessly exploiting local resources and labor. The CNN screen behind Marcus Thorne suddenly shifts, displaying an old black-and-white photograph. It shows a gaunt Asian man holding a clipboard, standing amid a line of emaciated African workers, exhausted under the scorching sun. The man's face is stern, expressionless. Below the photo, a caption reads, Rajesh Patel at the Turana Mining Complex, Kenya, 1989. Patel freezes. This is a photo he's never seen, a secret he thought was buried forever. He tries to mask his panic, but his eyes betray him. He was not just an employee, Director Patel, Traore says, his voice now carrying a hint of suppressed outrage. Rajesh Patel was a supervisor, a gatekeeper. He ensured that union activities were crushed before they could take root. He was the one who ordered no resistance, no matter how small, be allowed. Traore pauses, his eyes flashing with pain but resolute. And when workers protested unsafe conditions, exploitative wages, and ruined health, he helped maintain silence, not with words, but with ruthlessness. Marcus Thorne and the CNN crew listen in stunned silence, their faces reflecting horror. This is no longer political news, it's a human rights indictment. 7 men, Ibrahim says softly, each word a painful lament, yet his voice carries resounding power. 7 African men died in incidents related to that mining operation between 1987 and 1991. 7 men, fathers of families, sons of mothers, brothers of sisters. They died due to deplorable working conditions, due to the indifference of those above them. Their families were never compensated. Their names were buried. Their pain was ignored. Patel is trembling. He can't tear his eyes away from the split screen where Traore's calm face confronts his own panic. He wants to scream, to deny everything, but no words escape his throat. Rajesh Patel was never held accountable for those men's deaths, Traore continues, a clear note of irony in his voice. In fact, he prospered, he profited from that suffering, and when he died in 2019, he left a substantial inheritance to someone very special. Traore looks directly at Patel, his gaze unflinching. He left that inheritance to his beloved nephew. That's you, Director Kash Patel. Patel nearly leaps from his seat. No, that money didn't come from Africa. It was my family's personal savings, legitimate money. He tries to fight back, but his words lack strength, stumbling over themselves. Is that so, Director? Ibrahim Traore asks, his voice chillingly cold. He gently places another document on the table, a bank statement with a highlighted wire transfer in bold red. Because this bank record shows a wire transfer from the Kenya Commercial Bank to your personal Bank of America account for $127,000, dated March 2019, right after your uncle's death. Do you claim this was personal savings from someone who profited off the exploitation of African people? The document fills the CNN screen, undeniable. It is clear, unassailable evidence. That money, Traore emphasizes, funded your campaign, paid for your image, built your political career. And you knew its origins, Director Patel. Or at the very least, you willfully turned a blind eye. You accepted that money without a single question, without a hint of doubt about how it was made. You built your glory on the pain of others. Patel trembles violently. Cold sweat pours from him. His palms are drenched. Every denial becomes meaningless before this irrefutable evidence. He tries to say something, but only a choked whimper escapes his throat. So, IBRAHIM Traoré concludes, his voice resonating like a courtroom verdict. When you accuse African leaders of threatening your nation, Director Patel, perhaps you should ask, who has truly exploited whom? Who has built their empire on the foundation of suffering, and who is standing up to reclaim justice? Kash Patel sits in silence, utterly broken. Across the world, a new question begins to spread like wildfire on social media. Is the FBI director hiding the very corruption he swore to fight? The echo of that question seems to crush the air in the CNN studio, turning every light, every camera into an accusing gaze. Patel has fallen into the trap he created, and the escape door has slammed shut. Kash Patel's silence now speaks louder than any words. He sits motionless, his eyes fixed on the split screen where IBRAHIM Traoré's calm, dignified presence looms. Patel's feigned composure has shattered. His hands, once steady on the studio desk, now tremble uncontrollably. They clench into fists, then fall limp, as if his will to control has been stripped away. The studio lights, once a dazzling spotlight, now feel harsh, exposing every bead of sweat rolling down his forehead, every twitch at the corner of his mouth. IBRAHIM Traoré is in no hurry. He lets the silence envelop the space, letting the weighty accusations sink deep into Patel's mind and the millions watching. Then, he gently opens the dark red dossier once more. There is a pattern here, Director Patel, IBRAHIM says, his voice still terrifyingly calm but carrying a chilling edge. Not just exploitation, but concealment, rewriting the truth, a pattern of hypocrisy spanning generations. Traoré places a new document on the table, a copy of a last will and testament. Let's talk about your true legacy, Director. This is the final will of Rajesh Patel, your uncle. A signed, duly notarized will. He holds the document up to the camera. In it, he transfers all his African assets, land, shares in mining projects, and substantial cash to one person, you. His American heir, entrusted to continue the family's vision abroad. Patel tries to object. I never saw that language. I didn't write the will. No, Director, Traoré responds softly, his voice laced with irony. You didn't write the will, but you accepted the money. You used it. And you never questioned its origins while building your career on it. You accepted a legacy built on the sweat, tears, and blood of exploited Africans. The screen behind IBRAHIM lights up, displaying a complex spreadsheet, rows of deposits highlighted in bold red, complete with dates and transaction codes. This, IBRAHIM points, is the timeline. From March to September 2019, in just 6 months, 5 transfers totaling $187,000 were deposited into your personal account. Each traceable, each linked to shell companies owned by your uncle's mining operation. We tracked every penny, Director Patel. Patel shakes, his eyes darting like a cornered animal. Those were legitimate gifts, he tries to justify, his voice hoarse. Traoré raises an eyebrow, his gaze piercing. Legitimate, Director? Perhaps. Ethical? Absolutely not. You took that money born of suffering, from the silence of families robbed of their loved ones, and you used it to climb the ladder of power in your country. You turned others' pain into a springboard for your career. IBRAHIM Traoré slowly closes the dossier. He lets the heavy silence envelop the entire broadcast, drowning out every whisper in the CNN control room. Then, with near-surgical precision, he delivers the final accusation. You built your public persona as a patriot, demanding accountability, Director Patel. You called for transparency from every corner of society. But you never held your own family accountable. You never looked in the mirror and faced the truth about yourself. Kash Patel sits silent. His body slumps. Every facade has collapsed. His face no longer shows smugness or anger, but a profound despair. He tries to speak, but only a faint whimper escapes. This is an attack on my honor, Patel finally blurts out, his voice hoarse, defensive, but utterly futile. Traore responds with a cold, unrelenting tone. No, Director, this is an exposure. This is the truth speaking for itself, and I didn't make this a television spectacle. You did. You chose this public stage to slander my country, to challenge the dignity of a nation. I merely showed up with the truth about you. He opens the dossier one last time, pulling out a series of printed emails, complete with timestamps and signatures. Director Patel, Traore says, eerily calm. Your legacy isn't the end of your connection to Africa's pain. It's just the beginning. Even after your uncle's death, you continued to ensure no one could disturb his peace. IBRAHIM holds up the first email, dated the 14th of June, 2018. You wrote to a law firm in Nairobi, Kenya, seeking legal advice on your uncle's estate. And in this message, you specifically asked about preventing external claims from foreign parties. Foreign parties. Director Patel, meaning the families of the miners who died, who sacrificed their lives to enrich your uncle. The CNN screen displays a direct excerpt from the email, bolded and highlighted, clearly showing Patel's calculated words. He tries to interrupt. That was just a precaution, standard legal protection. Traore doesn't let him finish. The next email, the 3rd of July, 2018. A $23,000 transfer to a legal intermediary, explicitly noted as a retainer fee to challenge any lawsuits from non-citizen complainants. You may have wanted to protect the estate, Director, but it was an estate built on injustice, and you actively paid to silence those who suffered. Traore pauses, letting the words sink into the heavy air. You weren't just a passive beneficiary of dirty money. You actively, consciously, helped bury the trail. You actively blocked justice from reaching those impoverished families. He holds up one final document, an internal memo from the law firm, confirming their instructions. Our client wishes to ensure silence through the use of aggressive legal strategies, specifically targeting wrongful death claims. Patel has no defense left. His hands grip the chair's armrests, knuckles white. His head bows, his eyes staring blankly into space. Patel's voice suddenly spikes, shrill like the cry of a cornered man. You don't understand. I was protecting my family, my children, my wife. They didn't ask for this. They have nothing to do with it. It's a desperate plea, feeble and frail. Traore responds with a softer tone, but one carrying the weight of understanding and supreme authority. No, Director, they may not have asked for this. But the families whose fathers never returned from that mine didn't ask for it either. They didn't ask for their fathers to die. They didn't ask for poverty. And they didn't have cameras to speak, no lavish studios, no press to listen. But today they have me. I am their voice. I am their justice. At that moment, Kash Patel fully collapses. He begins to tremble violently, a faint sob escaping his throat. He slumps in his chair, hands clutching his head, as if to block the accusations drilling into his mind. Help me, he whispers, his voice breaking, filled with desperation. In the CNN studio, chaos erupts. Marcus Thorne and the production team are stunned. "Director Patel, are you okay?" Marcus asks, trying to maintain composure, but Patel is unresponsive. Tears stream down his face, mingling with sweat. "My career, my family, everything is gone," he sobs, his cries echoing through the studio and across the live broadcast to millions of homes worldwide. Amid the chaos, IBRAHIM Traoré's voice remains calm and steady, cutting through the noise. "I didn't destroy you, Director Patel," he says, his words ringing like a final verdict. "I merely showed the truth. The truth you hid, the truth you tried to bury, and the truth in the end always finds a way to speak. It is an irrefutable conclusion, a full stop to an era of deceit." Marcus Thorne, visibly shaken, signals the director to end the broadcast. The split screen fades, replaced by the CNN logo, but the echo of this historic confrontation cannot be silenced. It has been recorded, shared, and will forever mark a moment in media history. Instantly, social media explodes, flooded with hashtags like #Patel exposed, #Burkina Faso reveals, and #Truth broadcast live, all rapidly climbing to global trending status. With every passing second, clips of Patel's breakdown are shared at breakneck speed, outpacing any prior political scandal. People comment, analyze, and express shock and outrage. Major news outlets worldwide pivot immediately, from CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera to national broadcasters in Africa and Asia, all focus on this event. Political, legal, and international relations analysts appear in droves, dissecting every detail of the historic confrontation. They analyze not only Traoré's words but also his body language, Patel's reactions, and the deeper implications of each piece of evidence. Some experts initially question the authenticity of the information, but as the evidence displayed on CNN is swiftly verified through independent sources, skepticism turns to shock and acknowledgement. Within hours, the White House is forced to issue a brief statement, citing personal health concerns and Patel's temporary leave of absence. It's a feeble, transparent attempt to control the damage amid a storm of public outcry. The public isn't fooled. The world's eyes are fixed on the truth exposed by President Traore. Just days later, under unbearable pressure from the public and lawmakers, KASH Patel formally submits his resignation, the ignominious end of a once promising career built on arrogance and dark secrets. Public reaction is a whirlwind of emotions. In the United States, outrage at Patel's hypocrisy surges. Those who once supported his hardline stances on immigration and integrity now feel betrayed. Calls for a deeper investigation into the vetting process for senior officials, particularly background and financial checks, echo through power corridors and public forums. Many demand emergency congressional hearings to understand how someone with such a past could rise to the top of a leading law enforcement agency. Conversely, admiration and support for IBRAHIM Traoré soar globally, especially in Africa and developing nations. He is not only a leader who defended his nation's honor, but a symbol of the voiceless, courageously confronting oppression from a superpower. From remote villages in Africa to bustling urban centers in Asia and South America, Traoré's image, calm, upright, and resolute, becomes an inspiration. Human rights activists, NGOs, and millions worldwide express strong support for his actions. They see in Traoré a leader who doesn't just speak but acts, daring to challenge seemingly unshakable powers. At that historic moment, a process of justice is set in motion. The Kenyan miners' families, who watched the broadcast with astonishment and hope, finally have a chance to be heard. Armed with the irrefutable evidence Traoré made public, they connect with international legal organizations and human rights lawyers. The lawyers, moved by the public nature and brutality of the case, quickly form a powerful legal coalition. They begin gathering additional records, witness testimonies, and building lawsuits against those involved in the workers' deaths and labor exploitation. This is not just a lawsuit for compensation, but a fight to reclaim honor and justice for those buried in darkness for decades. The echo of the truth, courageously sounded by IBRAHIM Traoré, awakens a world too accustomed to silence and injustice. It proves that even the most deeply buried secrets can be unearthed, and justice, though delayed, can find its way. After the shocking live collapse, Kash Patel vanishes from the spotlight. No interviews, no public statements, no appearances. He becomes a shadow of his past, a stark example of the swift and bitter fall of power when faced with raw truth. His attempts to conceal a tainted legacy and questionable actions fail spectacularly. His assets, from large investments to bank accounts, are quickly frozen and entangled in numerous legal battles. The lawsuits filed by the Kenyan miners' families, once faint voices ignored, become unignorable demands for justice. The trials unfold in international and local courts, drawing widespread global media attention. Heart-wrenching testimonies from witnesses are presented, offering a clear view of the harsh working conditions, ruthless exploitation, and wrongful deaths of loved ones. Widows recount sleepless nights, children growing up in poverty and without a father's love. The financial evidence, bank transfer records, wills, and especially the emails Traore made public become the unshakable pillars of the lawsuits. They are not just documents, they are vivid proof of the hypocrisy and greed that destroyed lives. Human rights lawyers, inspired by Traore's courage and the family's pain, fight tirelessly to secure justice for the oppressed, turning each trial into a forum for justice. After nearly 2 grueling years of complex litigation, justice is finally served. The courts rule in favor of the miners' families, ordering those involved to pay over $2.3 million in damages. This historic victory brings not only financial justice, but also recognition of their suffering and sacrifice. It proves that, though delayed, justice can reach even the most vulnerable. The Kash Patel scandal reverberates not only within the FBI, but across America's halls of power. It sparks a serious review of the appointment process for senior officials. Congress launches extensive investigations, demanding stricter background and financial checks for all candidates for sensitive positions, especially in national security. The goal is to prevent similar cases in the future, where a lack of transparency could be exploited to elevate unworthy individuals to positions of power. Meanwhile, IBRAHIM Traoré stands tall and shines. His actions not only liberate a nation but empower a continent. He becomes a global symbol of courage, truth, and justice, a leader who not only defends his nation's honor, but inspires millions worldwide to demand their rights and dignity. This event solidifies his international stature, affirming that Burkina Faso is not a nation easily intimidated, but a powerful voice demanding respect and fairness. Years have passed since that fateful morning, yet IBRAHIM Traoré's legacy remains intact, undiminished. He is celebrated not only as a leader of Burkina Faso, but as a global symbol of courage, truth, and justice. His image, calm and resolute in the face of arrogant power, has inspired profoundly. Articles, reports, and documentaries about his life and career have been widely produced, affirming his pioneering role in reshaping international relations and elevating Africa's standing on the global stage. When asked about the incident with Kash Patel, despite his now stronger position, IBRAHIM Traoré maintains remarkable humility. He often delivers a simple yet profound statement that resonates deeply with listeners. True leadership is not just about protecting borders or wielding power. It is about safeguarding the dignity of your people. It is about ensuring that the voices of the most vulnerable are heard, and their pain is not buried. He continues, his words full of authority. When someone threatens Burkina Faso, we do not merely respond with violence or silence. We respond with truth. Because truth is the most powerful weapon a nation can possess. These words serve not only as a guiding principle for Burkina Faso, but also inspire other developing nations, urging them to stand up for their sovereignty and dignity. The world has witnessed a historic turning point. African leaders are no longer silent spectators to exploitation and oppression. They have found the tools, courage, and platform to hold global powers accountable. The Kash Patel affair is a powerful testament that threatening African nations in the 21st century no longer means using military might or covert operations to manipulate. It means facing public exposure, unrelenting justice, and a world that no longer tolerates exploitation or silence. African nations, from north to south, east to west, have begun to strengthen their positions on the international stage. They have formed stronger economic and political alliances, pushed for fairer trade agreements, and firmly demanded self-determination. The lesson from the Patel incident has become a catalyst, encouraging African nations to be more proactive in protecting their interests, resisting all forms of interference and exploitation. In an iconic speech at the United Nations, President Traore concluded with a statement that has gone down in history, encapsulating the message of a new era. Africa is no longer a continent to be threatened. It is a continent that speaks, and the world is finally listening. That declaration was not just the end of a personal story, but the beginning of a new era. It affirmed that in the confrontation between darkness and light, between silence and truth, one thing is clear: the era of impunity is over. Justice may be delayed, but it will always find its way, and those who courageously stand for truth will leave an everlasting legacy. The story of Kash Patel and IBRAHIM Traoré, though fictional, offers profound lessons directly applicable to life in the United States today, especially in the context of a volatile social and political landscape. The details of Mahesh Patel's sham marriage to secure permanent residency and Rita Patel's payment to participate in that transaction reveal that even those who loudly oppose illegal immigration, like Kash Patel in the story, may have roots in the very opaque actions they condemn. The lesson here is that hypocrisy exists not only among the elite, but also within individual mindsets. It reminds us of the need to view issues objectively, looking beyond rhetoric to uncover the essence and past of an individual, especially those in positions of power. In the United States, this serves as a reminder of the necessity for financial transparency and ethical accountability among influential figures. We must question the origins of wealth, the hidden interests officials may be protecting. The story urges us to question the credibility of those who frequently criticize others while concealing their own dark pasts. The lesson is that truth, no matter how deeply buried, will eventually be exposed, and when it is, the cost will be steep. This calls for every individual and organization in the U.S. to heighten their commitment to integrity and accountability, not just in words but in actions, especially when engaging with more vulnerable communities. Before we close, if this story of justice and exposed truth has moved you, don't hesitate to subscribe to the channel to catch more insightful analyses. Thank you for joining us on this journey to seek the truth, and we'll see you in the next video, where we'll continue exploring thought-provoking stories.